Okay, this morning it's a couple of things that I can do, but I don't want to. So it's kind of up to you, and I'll sense it. If I start feeling the brakes being put on me, then I'll just back off. That's because it's going to be highly technical. I can go that route, but then how many people would really understand? And I want all of you to be able to participate. So I'm going to mention a couple of scientists and professors and a couple books and things like that, so you can do your study on your own. There's probably 30 or 40 books that I have right now that are just in the last month that I bought. They're highly technical, but what I'm doing, I'm picking up where I left off several years ago. I had reviewed 110 books and interviewed people and come to my conclusion about certain things, and then I just dropped it for a while, like 20 years. And then I'm picking it up again now because it's become known, it's public. So once people that start talking information that's classified, and they start talking as and bringing it out, then you feel safer about talking about stuff. The bottom line is that just like with the healthcare code, they tell you, well, let's pass the healthcare so then we can read it. Remember that? It's 1,000 pages. Okay, so that was that was spoken by the Wicked Witch of the West. Okay, so you got somebody that probably didn't read it saying that. Okay, so you got the IRS code. Now you can talk to 7 IRS agents about one thing, and they'll all give you a certain answer that's not conducive with each other because of the way they interpret it. Right? Okay, so that's why I like the FAA. The FAA says, you go this speed. If you go more than this speed, you get a ticket. If you go below this altitude and at that speed, then you get a ticket. And it's just really clear. There's no gray area at all or interpretation for it. Everything is based on safety, right? But I can obey all those rules and slow, from 500 miles an hour down to 250 and then down to 200, and then. The idea is just to be at the ramp or the gate at 0, and everything's fine. But then I can get in my car, and if I go 37 and a 35 through my neighborhood, I get a ticket. So you can do everything right with one umbrella area and then get infringed upon. You could do something wrong in another area. So with the government, they don't want things to be clear because they're trying to hide something. That's why people have taken things in their body that they were told they had to take, but we'll tell you what's in it in 75 years, right? Well, that's a little late for most of us, right? So you have to go to the back of your food, and you got to look at the ingredients. And you have to become a scientist and a biologist and a chemist because you got to look those words up, and then you look and see what those really are. And you're like, well, if I gave that to my kids, I'd go to jail. If I gave that chemical to my kids, it's poison. But they can mask it, and it's just a small amount. It's like, well, why do you even need it? I got enough lead in me from chewing my pencil when I was a kid. I don't need lead in my Captain Crunch. It's the same with medication. Why do I need pain reliever? I can just buy a model and sniff the glue from testers while I'm building it, and I'm fine. I love everybody. But I might be flammable for a couple weeks. But it's like $1.97. You can buy a 6-pack, I'm just joking with you, but what I'm saying is that why are some things kept from us? I ask questions about the things that nobody wants to talk about because that's probably the things I need to know. Right? So remember, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It's like, yes, that is the most important part of the whole movie. Because things aren't what they seem, right? So when I buy an airplane, I'm asking, well, why are you selling it? And I have somebody that goes through every single log, every single maintenance issue, everything. And my pilots, they actually delivered most of the airplanes that are out there for this company. And Lou, where's Lou at? He wrote the manuals to the airplanes we fly. So Sven helped develop the simulator for the training for the pilots for the airplane flight. Most of my pilots, all the airplanes we have, they delivered them brand new from Brazil. Okay, so they know the airplane. It's like, well, this is a good airplane. Okay, that's the kind of lifestyle you want to have with everything. You want to know people that know exactly what's going on. And you want to have those as friends. So I don't actually, to tell you the truth, I don't actually like even buy things or do things without having a personal reference. Someone who has either bought that, ate that, flown it. I talked to somebody that like knows the inside scoop, the kind of person you can take to the side and say, hey, tell me what's really going on. Is this a good car? Is this a good airplane? Is this a good restaurant? Is this a good minister? And so I check out through relationships, I find out what's really going on. Because if a person appears to be perfect, that's a danger sign. If you think I'm perfect, then that's a danger sign. Because that's how everything is set up for somebody to be disappointed, is when we try to portray ourselves as being perfect and knowing it all, and then when things go wrong and everybody's in the same boat, then we got to still live with each other. Okay, so I would rather be truthful and ask the right questions, which may not be the ones that you're supposed to ask based on the powers that be. Okay, so if people like myself, if you want to report something you've seen, the pile of paperwork that they make the air traffic controllers fill out, the pilots, the questions and insinuations of being called in for a psychological evaluation over something you saw that almost hit you. They make it so that you back off. So now I'm asked, do you want to report this? And I say no, because I don't have 2 weeks. Is there anybody in here? Okay, so it's the same thing. If you start asking questions about, well, what's in this thing in that syringe, and they don't want to tell you, but you got to take it, well, you're not a dumb animal. And I don't know anybody in here who wants to be part of an experiment. How many of you are so excited when you see the new the new operating system come out for your iPad? I'm not, because I'm not going to be a guinea pig, because I want to actually use it after I download that. So what I do is I just wait. I wait for the fire and the smoke plumes to come up, from that, and then they come out with the fixes. So if you ever notice, if you don't upload that right away, then you're going to have, like, just shortly later, a week or two later, you'll have fixes. Well, I thought the thing that we downloaded was a fix. Well, we thought that for the last 3 or 4 years. It wasn't a fix. People are worse off. Come on now. Okay, so I could get highly technical with this, but I would lose a lot of people. I might even lose myself. So what I'll do is I will mention certain things that you can go do your research on. These are all very, very highly respected individuals. But I want to show you maybe more for me, and maybe for you, I believe as well. I'd rather just create a timeline for you to show you a trend of how things went. And I'll give you a hint. There is a fourth branch. We learned the 3 branches of the government, right? Executive, judicial, and legislative. Okay, but there's a fourth one. It's the CIA. It's the intelligence field. It's the 4th branch. Yes, even the kids are crying. They know. All right, so the intelligence fields, they took over. And so they control information by keeping information from people, but they also disseminate information that is false. It's a false narrative, but it's 95% true sometimes. But the 5% will get you off enough to where you never really find out the truth about anything. So you know when you go to a museum and you see all those bones, you realize that at the best, that is 60% clay, maybe 80%. Those bones, those dinosaur bones. Look at you all. This is at the admission of those who work there. So based on what you're seeing, you draw a conclusion, and then you go see Jurassic Park. Yeah. But based on the narrative of the Bible, we can see that there's a reason why they are not here anymore. They didn't make it on the ark. Barney was not on the ark. So he wasn't on the ark. Okay, so very quickly, and I mentioned Chuck Missler because there's about 3,000 hours if you read all his books and watch all his videos, and then the ones that you can't find, there's about 3,000 hours. So I don't know, like I haven't taken all his courses because I actually, when he was alive, I took advantage of what he was doing then. But he worked for the Department of Defense. And so a lot of times when he was asked questions in interviews, he became a Christian, but he still was under oath. So he said, that's a government project. I can't talk about that. He'd be asked about UFOs. He would be asked about all these different things. And he would sometimes not be able to talk about it. But he would lead you in the right direction. So I suggest, if you want coffee talk on steroids, then you go and you listen to him. There are other people. You got to look for the people that have museums that have been burnt down. You got to look for individuals. I can name them. They've spoken the truth. They're Christians, but they have lost everything. Okay, I will. I'll tell them. Once you get hot on the trail and you start to mention certain things, you start to get into a vein of what's really going on, then the powers that be get very nervous. So what's happening is you have in every agency, you have a dichotomy. So you have those who are pledged through the Masonic line, that have taken the Masonic pledges and have built themselves up to the levels that they're at. And they have privilege because it's connected to the Illuminati. Okay, so that is Mystery Babylon. Okay, so within any government agency, some individuals I knew, because they didn't want to go that way with the Masonic line, they were left out. So within the Pentagon, within every agency, you have individuals that have their coin, they have their secret handshake, they have all these oaths. They are in the know, but they are told, this is the way you vote in Congress, this is the way you legislate, this is the way you judge. Come on now. They're told, and you call them rhinos. But you got to understand that some of these senators are Mormons, which is part of that Masonic line. So it doesn't matter whether they're red or blue. They vote according to how they're told. So in any situation, if it's their will that you disappear, then when you get put in jail, all the cameras get turned off and the guards fall asleep. That's right. That's right. And you commit suicide without any help. Right. But you had lots of help. It's just not on film. Okay, I know this because I've seen things, and then when you go to get the film's gone. Well, who got it? Well, these men came. Well, who were they? We don't know. Come on now, y'all looking at me. You got it. You got, when videos come out, you got to watch them because they're going to disappear. You got to watch the people that were in these government projects. They're in their deathbed in a hospital, and they're spilling the beans. They're singing like a sailor. And then it's gone. Over the years, I've had so many conversations with people that were right there, people that are right there. My dad, they came and threatened us. This thing crashed in our yard. This thing, today, where that spot is in Roswell, the cows still won't even go near it, that spot. They came and they took this thing away. And this is what really happened. And this is what was in the ground. This is what was on the ground. It's just too much. See, there's too much liability. Too many people get involved. The only way you can control this is to make everything digital so that you can erase it. And not only that, you can change. Like right now, I mean, you can watch my films. I say stuff, though you'll see it on this film. I say stuff that I didn't even say, but it's my voice. I watched myself say that there wasn't even a flood of Noah. I'm like, why would I say that? Just ask Noah, he'll tell you. Just ask the millions of people that died. They can change. They can make you say anything you want. Anything they want. Okay, so each agency has these people. So the bottom line is how it goes with you, even in a traffic stop, is based on what's really going on and who these people really are connected to. So you're not being represented correctly to the government if this person already has been chosen to push an agenda. And that's why you have to have every 2 years a different person representing you. And it has to be somebody that owns a business that lives down the street from you, not somebody who's been there 47 years and has done nothing. Because that allows them to develop the web of crime, that causes the matrix to be formed. You want to keep transferring people around so that they don't get to where they have their gig going on. You want to mess them up. That's why the spirits don't want to be sent out of the area, because you're messing with the whole matrix. Come on now. Why do you think the evil spirits don't want to be cast out of the area? Because that's their peeps. They got them all hoodwinked. Each city, each town, each community, each state, each country, it's already a network that's set up in the spirit. And if all of you in this room do not come to this conclusion very quickly, then it's going to become your liability in the days ahead, because it already is. But it's just time to wake up. Okay, so there are scientists. One of them is Townsend Brown. T.T. Brown, very interesting individual, because a couple of these individuals, they found that you can negate gravity. And there's several ways to do it. But if I start saying all this stuff, I'm going to get in trouble. So if you read them, then they're dead. They can get in trouble. All right, so Townsend Brown, it's very interesting that he had developed ways, he realized that gravity, along with Nikola Tesla, that gravity was a wave, and it was also like a fabric. They also realized, it's very interesting that when the United States started testing with the Manhattan Project, which is the key to this, and the Philadelphia experiment, all these things, right here, yours truly here in Norfolk, which is why I'm here. This is why the Lord told me to come here, is for this right now, what we're talking about, is because there was a portal opened by the government. But it was based on these studies. I'm going to name a bunch of scientists, and I'm going to show you how they're all connected to Nazi Germany and Project Paperclip. Now, Project Paperclip, all 1,500 of these scientists. Now, I've seen the photos when the bottom line was we wanted what was in those mountains in Germany. I'm not mentioning a place so we don't get flagged. But, I'll get flagged because the intelligence agents are here in this room right now. But I want to stay in the medium part of this so I can still have my YouTube channel and still preach the gospel. But at the same time, get you to think for yourself. Get you to look into things yourself. Because it all happened in World War II when we were developing the nuclear weapon. There was a guy named Edward Teller. He's key to all of this about UFOs, whether you like it or not. You got to remember that this Townsend Brown and Teller were friends. And you got to remember that the CIA was formed because of these individuals. And a couple more of them I'm going to give you names to. It was all based on them going over there and getting the technology that the Germans had. Now, I've seen the photos of these tunnels and these scientists. There are 1,500 of them. All of these individuals skipped the Nuremberg trials, but they were SS. They got immunity. They went to Los Alamos. I can show you all this data, but I'm going to say that you read Annie Jacobson's book. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner. That woman nails it. And she's a really cool person. I want to meet her. I've seen her in interviews. It's amazing. She doesn't even know why she's still alive. But she uncovered all these scientists. Von Braun was one of them. So they put him. He developed the missile technology. And you just tell me, you just start yelling out if you want me to stop. Okay, the reason why is that the CIA was formed, and it was all about the fact that they realized that what was disturbed when this nuclear weapon went off was there was a fabric that was stretched, that it revealed things in the other realms for a fraction of a second. And they've got it on film. And they had pictures of all these craft and these discs. Now, this is not hearsay. These are whistleblowers that are saying this today. That's why I've had to wait all these years to talk about this stuff, because no one was talking about it because they didn't live. But now you got David Grush. He's testifying. He's naming all these people. So the CIA, if you look at the Roswell incident, which was 2 years later, and you look at the area where that was at, that's where they had brought all these scientists over and placed them there in New Mexico. Then they later took them to Muroc, which became Edwards Air Force Base. Then they took them to Wright-Patterson, which is the headquarters for all this, by the way. If you look at all the three-letter and then NASA, if you look at who was the head of NASA, it was one of these SS, it was one of these 1,500 that started it. They split the Army Air Force into Army and Air Force because of what fell out of the sky. When this bomb was detonated, it started to ruin the fabric of what these things were traveling through. It disrupted, because they were operating at a higher law, which was invisible, made them invisible, except during this explosion. Is this too much? Okay, so if you look, after these things started, there was 9 of them all over the world. One of them fell near where I lived in Arizona. I got the newspaper clippings from the Arizona Republic of the Luke Army Airfield taking this thing away. It's got photographs from the rancher. The rancher's photographing it overhead and then showing this truck coming and picking it up and taking it to Luke Air Force Base, which was an Army airfield at the time. Then all these agencies started. This is all in the same time frame of the Manhattan Project. Does everybody understand? So the heavenlies were shaken, and these things were falling out of the sky, but they were always there. The technology that was gathered from all this became ours. But it was the Germans, and Adolf Hitler had many witches around him. And they had open portals. He was told, you got to get the gates of Ishtar from Babylon and bring them to Berlin. So he did. And Ishtar gates of Babylon, I've touched them. They're in Berlin. He said, you will not be conquerable if you get the spear of Goliath and the Ishtar gates. And so he did. So what's the secret? The secret is this. Gravity is a wave. God stretched out the heavens, but it says in the end, it'll roll up like a scroll. So it's stretched. So that means that what you do right here affects the past and the future in the whole universe. Everything you say, everything you do is connected. So what happened was, at the fall, and then the flood, the earth kept ratcheting down, but these higher laws stayed up there. So the dimensions that were available to Adam and Eve were not available anymore, except through magic, astrology, and necromancy. You weren't allowed. God forbid it. Why would he say, do not do it this way? It's forbidden. Why would he say, don't suffer a witch to live? Why would he say it? Because you could access these realms and you could time travel. But see, the problem is space and time are not two separate things. It's one thing. It's space-time. In other words, Einstein, of course, was correct, but you can't say it's a certain distance and a certain time. Because if the limitations were taken off of you for distance, then there is no time. Do you get it? Okay, so if Philip is chosen to be translated to witness to someone, which he was, then he superseded all the laws that are in existence in the physical realm, and he superseded them and was placed 13, 15 miles away to witness to that guy. And it's happened to me. Jesus, the apostles, many people have had these supernatural experiences where it supersedes. Okay, but a fallen world, as it ratchets down the magnetic field, everything is deteriorating. Light is deteriorating, as you know, right? You know the measurements in 1903, plus or minus 3, and then the measurements we just recently had, even with the margin of error, it shows that light's slowing down. So even in Einstein's theory, the constant is not a constant because it's deteriorating. And it's a flaw. And if you're a scientist, please don't throw anything at me because I understand all the arguments and I don't have time or enough Chick-fil-A to listen to you all day. Yeah. The bottom line is that the earth fell and we were locked out of certain dimensions now, but your dog can hear things you can't hear. And your cat can see things that you can't see. So I've had it happen. I've been in houses where I knew there was an angel standing beside me and the cat's staring at the angel. It was Andrew's dad and mom's house. And the cat liked my angel better than me. So, things are still going on, but we're locked out, right? Because we're fallen, right? Okay? So our eyes only see 1/6 of light now. So the rainbow colors is 1/6 in the pie chart. But there's all these other sensors now that have developed. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Science and the governments know what's going on. And they know how to negate gravity through electromagnetic fields, through high frequency waves. I'm going to get in trouble. They can negate gravity. You can negate gravity. Not only that, you can take where you're at and you can place. I can't say all that. I'm going to get in trouble. I wish I had my chart. I chickened out. I didn't bring it. But this article, they took it away, but it's too late. I got it. But these men understand this. So the key to this is the next time that you see that big wing B-2 bomber, I had a grieving in my spirit. I'm not going to be allowed to say all this. I'm not supposed to know all this stuff. So read Nick Cook's book. He wrote for Aviation Week and Space Technology. He talked to all these people. Nick Cook. It's called 0 Point. Discovering 0 point gravity. Okay? 0 point. Which is where you negate what the forces are against you, and then you just float. So that's why the earlier photos and the films of these UFOs that are wobbling, those are ours. But if you put a gyro in there big enough and it would spin, that would stabilize that. And so later on, that's what they did. And now they're stable. But if you look, they're still kind of like turning a little bit. That's because inside, there's something going the opposite direction. There's residual. Is this too much? No. Okay, so you got the old ones. So you got the technology. Now, this is how I know this. Remember that Blackbird SR-71? That was built. That was like my professor flew that. He was a wing commander at Beale. And he said that was on a drawing board in the late 60s. But you know who developed that airplane? The CIA. It was the CIA's project. They had 12 of them. They were designated as the A-12, and it was out of Groom Lake, which doesn't exist. Now, all these people, guess who these people were involved with? Lockheed, Martin, all these men that I can name that came over, all these things were formed in these 40s. All of these agencies were formed after Roswell. And all that technology went black. What's happening now is people that are been part of this for all these years are realizing that it's going to be weaponized. It's going to be used as a weapon, which means that when these people that worked on these craft, I mean, this isn't hearsay. You couldn't approach that craft. The field makes it weightless, and you can go anywhere you want if you have the coordinates, and you can go like that, and you won't feel a thing if you're inside. But if you're not inside of that, you cannot approach it. The field is too strong. Well, that's a weapon. Whoever has that technology has the earth because it's free energy. This was created by God from the beginning, but man fell, and now it's in the wrong hands, and it can be manipulated. So all of these things that you see on the earth and all these civilizations that disappeared, it all had to do with what I'm talking about. Those stones didn't weigh anything when they were building those things. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to tell you here? Now I got to back out of the cave. I've gone further than I ever thought I would go. Okay, so I'm gonna bring the Bible back into it so that the intelligence agents can take a rest and AI can. I'm going to say things over and over again. That's why I repeat things over and over again. Everybody's like, "Why do you just go in circles?" It's like AI, because they'll take out 6 of them, but the 7th one will get through. That's the only one I want. I just want it to get out. I love YouTube and I love Facebook. I do. They're my friends. CIA, they're they've got my best interest. Okay. Oh yeah, this is good. Do you know Daniel had an insight into this? A lot of things he was told, don't say this. What the 7 spirits said, don't say this. Like you have John, you have these people say, hold that. This is not for this time. So that happened to Daniel. But it's interesting that Daniel, chapter 2, verses 31 through 45. Now, what you don't know is that Hebrew is a dead language, the biblical Hebrew. It became Aramaic, which is like a street language, which is more colorful, actually. So Aramaic is what Jesus spoke, which is very interesting that they would get rid of any Bible that was from the Aramaic. I'll give you a hint. When you do a search, why is it the NIV that comes up every time? Okay, because if you look at who is on the board for NIV, you have people that the Bible speaks against. If you look at the translation when it comes to sexual perversion and homosexuality and lesbianism, you'll understand why those things are left out, because you look at who's on the board. Also, your favorite publisher also publishes the satanic verses as a shell company. Yeah, you got your favorite Christian publishers. Shell company. Did I mention satanic verses? Okay, so you got to be sure that what you're reading is accurate, because money may have been the predominant factor on why you got that translation in front of you by a search. Because it's all about the money. So there is no real lines with publishers if money is there. We'll publish anything. So in other words, like your standards, you go after the money. That's what's happening. That's how the church got corrupt. That's how ministry got corrupt. They had to choose. They were chasing the money, and they got intoxicated by it and popularity. And then at a certain point, they were going to break through the barrier. And they had to make a decision. Am I going to heaven or hell? Just making friends everywhere I go. But you better be sure that your favorite minister is going to be in heaven with you. Because you might get there and there's going to be vacant property beside you. And it may be for sale. Just kidding, but it's all about the money. So the SR-71 became that forefront. But the head of Lockheed Skunk Works said that we have the ability to travel through the galaxy, but it is tied up in black projects and probably will never become public for public use. Okay, so Daniel says this, and I'm just doing this to shock and awe you, shake your cage. Everything's good now. I'm satisfied. I'm very happy because of the look on your faces. Because I like that deflated look. Because what happens now, we can build. This is what Daniel said. Talking about the great image, the brightness in verse 31 of chapter 2. Now, and when I'm mentioning the Aramaic, it's just interesting because Daniel, for some reason, right here in this vision, he changes from Hebrew to Aramaic. And a whole portion of his prophecy is in Aramaic, and then he switches back to Hebrew again. I would say that's an earmark to the reader. Why did he do that? Well, Aramaic is very much more, it's colorful, but I think that he did it because God told him to, which is a good reason to do anything. All right, so it goes through the image of the head, and the gold goes down 34. Then they saw till that a stone that was cut without hands, which smote the image at his feet, that were of iron and clay. Okay, you see that in verse 34? Right? Verse 35, then there was iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, gold, broken pieces together, and became like chaff, and the threshing floors, and the wind carried it away. And there was no place. The image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. All right, so he goes through down to the interpretation, and this is what he says. Now, this is interesting because there's some rules about writing, and I learned this in journalism and how to slant an article. So that's why I don't read the news. I don't watch the news. I know exactly what they're doing. You can tell by the first 3 sentences. You can tell the writer, his slant, what he believes, or she, you can tell. So I was taught how to write articles slanted to favor a certain agenda. So when you read something, you already can tell where it's going and the slant of it. So everything is done this way against you. So here it says the toes. So one of the rules is that if you're going to use the word they, you're going to use a pronoun. You have to be referring back, and it's the first mention. So you can mention who the they is, and then from then on you just say they or them or whatever. Okay, you're allowed to do that if you reference the source. So what I do is when I'm reading through and I see they and all this, I go back up to try to find who it is that reference. And I'm telling you, this ZNN and all these people, they're so good. When you read articles, you can't even tell what the decision that the judge made was because it's reverse. They talk in reverse about everything. And I'm thinking, if I don't understand what's being said here, and I'm pretty well coached on all this, then I know that everybody else doesn't know what's being said, which is the whole purpose of it. So what was the decision? And what does it mean for me? Well, you need a lawyer to interpret the lawyer, which you're not going to do. So you're going to skip the article. Okay, so what it says here is, and the toes of the feet were part of iron. This is in 42. I hope you're all listening. And part clay. So the kingdom will be partly strong. This is at the end. These are the 10 toes. This is it. There's nothing else past the toes. Okay. Partly strong, partly broken. Whereas they sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. Now that miry clay, that is the mention, that is the symbolic of man. What God did to form man. Tracking? Okay, they. Okay, so you go up through the article or the verse, and they is never identified. It's the seed of the serpent, of course. It's entities that are not identified, but they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Well, if it isn't the seed of men, then what is it? Okay, so you got the seed of men. We know what that is. That's all of us down here. But who's they? It never says. Is there anybody in here? Yes. Okay, good. All right, I'll just let off the brakes then. We're going to take off. Thank you. You're welcome. But they shall not. Okay, so, but they shall not cleave to one another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And it says, in these days, of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. And that kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break into pieces and consume all the kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Okay? All right? Okay, so this is where we're coming into. Now, if I may talk to you about what's happening right now that you will not know. You will not know this until it's too late. That's why I have to say all this stuff. I don't understand why there's not stadiums full of people, because everybody needs to know this. And it's not because of me. It's just because, it defaulted to me and Kathy. It's defaulted to you now. You're responsible for, because the church has had 2,000 years to do it right. The fivefold has had 2,000 years to do it right. And we're still lukewarm at best. Okay? Right? Okay, so somebody, not a professional minister, but Captain Kevin and Kathy and you all, just normal people that work for a living, are going to stand up and say, listen, we know what's going on. The world has fallen, and science has gotten a hold of all of these things and can manipulate it through high voltage. We can manipulate. I mean, people do this in their garage. You should see the stuff the films that were on YouTube where they made stuff levitate in their garage and then they're dead. And their vacuum cleaner killed them. I'm serious. There was strangulation by vacuum cleaner in their death certificate. Okay. I'm serious. The guy goes 3 or 4 hours on a gallon of water in an engine from L.A., and he disappeared. Okay, so at the last 10 toes, the feet, you're going to have they trying to mingle with the seed of men. Is there anybody in here? I mean, it's your King James. I mean, it's your King James. Right there. Okay, so do you want to just go to heaven? Like I went there and I saw all this, and I'm like, man, we are messed up. And I didn't want to come back. I said, well, how am I going to ever get a group of people to listen to me about reverse engineering and about high voltage and negating gravity, and how you could just have access to anything? You can have open portals. CERN. You can just create a place where you can walk right through to the other realm. That's what these temples were. What does it say in Hebrew about the Tower of Babel, it says the word there is not to reach the heavens. You couldn't build a tower high enough to reach the heavens. It was to access the heavens. So why did they take Nikola Tesla's all his stuff? Why did General Electric get it? So let's see here. Do I mention these guys? I get in trouble. All right, so Colonel Corso, The Day After Roswell. You need to read that book. And then the other one you need to read is guy that worked for JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, for 30 years. His name was Paul. Somebody yell it out. No, this was Paul. Yeah, Bob Lazar is. That'll be my last day on Earth when I talk about him. So it's called Unconventional Flying Objects, and it was by a guy named Paul somebody that worked for Jet Propulsion. He developed the boosters for the space shuttle. Paul, huh? No, it's not yet. Dear Lord, I'll just put it in at Amazon. I love Amazon. Yell it. Paul Hill, Jet Propulsion Laboratories, Unconventional Flying Objects. He accidentally, on purpose, left all his stuff at home, and his daughter got a hold of it and published the book, and it's an amazing book. So I'm sure it was accidentally on purpose. So, but anyway, Paul Hill, you got to read that one. And The Day After Roswell by Colonel Corso. That will give you up to speed on what you need to know going forward with me. As far as like, if you want to just read 2 books, if you want to read 40, then it's going to be all these people I'm going to name to you. Okay, so the bottom line is this: is that the fields and everything about the earth, when it fell and the water came up from underneath the earth, it changed everything as far as a magnetic field, everything about the atmosphere. There's also an intrusion of a meteorite that probably had the element 115 in it, which is now on the periodical charts that Bob Lazar talked about, that was being used in these craft. It's not from the solar system. Its mass is unbelievable, and it doesn't decay. The one that's on the chart decays in like 3 seconds. The ones that he had, that they were using to make this field within this craft, to make it invisible and make it move without, the propulsion that we have, which is what Paul Hill talks about, which is what Edward Teller knows, and Townsend Brown. And that should keep you busy for at least 1,000,000 years right there. But there's 40 or 50 more books. What happened is these fields, when they diminish, physically we can't access them anymore, but you're spiritually, you have been redeemed, and you are continually accessing these other realms. So it's not 7 spirits, there's not 7 Holy Spirits. There's 7-fold, 7 dimensions of the Holy Spirit. It's a 7-level chess game. It really is. There's 7 games going on. And I know of one that only God and the devil play on. We don't even play on that one. There are different levels that we have access to. That's why it says that we trample on serpents and scorpions. If you notice the word there, the words that are used there as an example is that they are earthbound devils. It's called teraphim. So you have seraphim, you have cherubim, you have Nephilim, which are the fallen angels. And then you have the word teraphim mentioned. With one of the patriarch's wives had one, an image of one in her luggage, if you remember, and she got in trouble. So there's teraphim, that's earthbound entities, okay? We have authority over earthbound devils. And that goes over well with the intercessors and all those who are up in the heavenlies fighting these things. That's why they don't live very long. Because the church is supposed to take them out. We're all supposed to come against that. These down here, you can trample on them as you're walking to the grocery store. The ones that confronted Jesus were the disembodied spirits from the people that lived before the flood. The angels that left their abode, the Nephilim, the fallen ones. Nephal means fallen. I am is plural. Fallen ones are the angels that left their abode that Peter talks about. They're chained. So Jesus wasn't talking to chained angels. He was talking to unclean spirits, which is what everybody was before the flood, except for Noah and his family. So please don't write me. What you're dealing with is a race of people that are out. They're disembodied, and they don't like you at all. And they don't want to leave the area they're in, and they don't want to go to torment yet, because their time is not yet. They have not been drugged to hell. Come on now. Jesus wasn't talking to fallen angels, and fallen angels can't inhabit you. Angels can't inhabit you. Angels don't procreate. Jesus said they don't. You'll be just like them in heaven. Trust me. When you're up there, you see a female, you're going to say, whoa, wow, nice robe. Oh, man, wow. You don't even notice that stuff. Man, look at that robe. No, you don't even, you could care less. Listen, the angels, the most male angel, if there is such a thing, there isn't. But every angel is better looking than any woman I've ever seen. And they don't even have a sex. The angels are beautiful, but they're holy, and you can't really look at them too long, because they're that and you're not. But when you are made in the image of Christ, what I saw was that we were way beyond the angels, and I got a glimpse of that. And I had to look away when God let me see that. When I got my glorified body, which we all will have, we look just like our Father God. And you got to remember that this is how it started in the garden. We were made in the image of God. Whatever we said went. That's it. We didn't work. Whatever it was we needed came to us. It served us. We didn't die. We didn't sin. We were just like God, except for one thing. We couldn't eat from the tree and know the difference between good and evil and still choose good. So we weren't allowed to eat from that tree because we're not God. But Adam and Eve, after a while, after 1,000 years, they probably thought they were God, which is probably why they thought they probably should eat that. Okay? This is how it all happened. But when they fell, then they're fighting all of these laws that weren't against them until they fell. We're fighting all these laws. We can look at food and gain weight. You could have a 90% chance of passing a test and fail it. It's all rigged against you in the system down here. The only way now to do that is to access the heavenly realms through the gate, Jesus Christ. You know, the devils fear this kind of teaching. Okay, so science has observed over the years and saw that we can manipulate these laws. So if the serpent seed was able to get into man's seed and the woman and cause hybrids so that the whole earth had to be destroyed except for 8 people on a boat, that's a big thing, right? Okay, but you got to remember that something was on the boat, bacteria, that transferred over and the giants popped up on the other side of the flood. It had to be through the boat. You have to understand, you have to have gain of function to get a human being to get an animal disease. Because human beings, you can't kill them. They're hard to kill. Because God made them in his image. So they have to invent ways to slow it down, to shorten your life. And so you got Captain Crunch, and you got macaroni and cheese, and you got cell phones, and you got all this, and you know, we're going to give you something that's going to fix it. Not. It's gain of function. One year it's pig, then it's bird, then it's bat. then it's mad cow. They introduce gain of function through an animal, then they take that and put it into a human being. They have to get, you ever heard this? Gain of function. Okay, you hear that all the time, all right? You can't make a human being sick unless you make it so that it can mingle. So you have RNA, messenger RNA, where it tells the liver to convert it, and it changes the DNA in your liver. I haven't been shot yet. There's no Men in Black. This may be the last time I ever talk about this. But I want you to tell everybody that it's hard to do it. So they're mingling with the seed of men, but it will not take because God stops it. But he stops it through the church. We have to decide that this is not going to happen.
Yes. Yes.
So these entities that are disembodied, the higher rulers that Paul talked about, there's different levels. One of the levels I said was not translated in the King James, but it is in the older Bibles where these gain entrance to leaders. And then those leaders form 3-letter agencies that cause these things to happen, where they institute it to be put in your body, which changes you in your liver. Is everybody clear? Yes. How many times do I have to say it? Well, I'm going to keep saying because they've taken it out at least 3 times. I'm just going to keep saying it. You got to be careful from now on. What is genetically altered? Why are the farmers, why are they taking the real seed and giving hybrid seed every year? Why are they not allowed? Huh?
Yes.
Well, if you look at some of the things that are put in our food, like bromide, which blocks iodine from being brought into your body, well, then you have all kinds of thyroid problems, which affects your weight. And you have all these thyroid problems. The same thing with pesticides and glyphosate. When you think about the fact that you need glycine in your body, it's an amino acid, but when you look at when you get a test, it shows that weed killer and pesticide is the same molecular structure and attaches itself on the receptors of what amino acids are supposed to have, and it blocks you and it starves you. And you have this clown, this fake. I know, I feel the same way, honey. I do. I feel the same way. This is how I wake up. Everything she's saying. I know. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. She's saying, take me to Washington right now. I'm going to take care of this. Okay, so all of you have to be smart to know that praying in the Spirit, you don't need a UFO. You don't need one of these anti-gravity crafts. You don't need to understand aliens. You might be the worst enemy to yourself. You might be the alien. You might be working against yourself, and that's what I know, is these evil spirits want you to work against yourself and work against each other. And that's what I'm called to stop. I don't need a UFO to travel. I can do it for free. By praying in the Spirit, my spirit is placed on a higher dimension, and I operate in other realms, which means I can hear and I can see, and I can get things done in the future, and I can make them my now. I can change the future. I can change it. And all of us can do that too, if we would agree. See, if we get together and agree, that was what was destroyed at Babel. God came down and destroyed their unity because he said, if we don't destroy their unity, there is nothing that they won't even imagine that they won't be able to do. In other words, they were going to do all that evil, and it couldn't be stopped. So God came down and stopped it. God came down and stopped it. He had to. Why? Because their belief system was wrong, but their unity was right. Okay, so what about now? The church. Satan works against our unity, but our belief system is right. So he knows if we get together and agree, there's nothing that we will not be able to do. Right? I mean, that's scripture, right? So this is the pure simplicity of the gospel, is that Jesus came to seek and save those who were lost. He went around doing good and healing everyone who's oppressed the devil. He drove out devils. He preached good news. He raised the dead. It's no harder to cast out a devil than it is to raise the dead, because neither one of them are you. So I want to close at, what time is it? My watch is set on some interplanetary thing. Huh? Oh, I got plenty of time. Where do I go? Okay. I sense that what has happened in this room is at a higher level than most churches. Okay, but this is supposed to be the norm, which means that people should come in here and walk out healed. They should be delivered, not because of an individual, but because we all came together and agreed as touching one thing. It says that Jesus is in the midst if we are gathered together in his name, two or more, then he is in the midst. That is the sign, not the anointing of the individual or the gifting. See, the gifting and the anointings are for the body. We're to minister to each other, but it's not just the fivefold. If you notice, all the gifts of the Spirit are not for the fivefold. They're for the body. Each individual says, in the body, in a congregation, in a meeting, Paul said, everybody has a psalm, everybody has a word, everybody has a tongue, everyone. He doesn't even mention the pastor. Who was the pastor at Corinth? Paul didn't even mention. Right? He was talking to the congregation. He's saying, all of you have all these gifts in that. He said, severally as the Spirit wills. Okay? But let it be done in order. So 2 or 3 of you of each gift come up, and then let everyone judge. Doesn't say the pastor or the prophet or your favorite televangelist. It doesn't say that. And Jesus never took an offering. But he obviously had enough because people were stealing out of it. And it still was enough, right? Even with the theft. But Judas was going to pay it back, just so you know. Okay, so the laws of physics and the laws, all these laws, are superseded by canceling out things like anti-gravity. And you can, this was such a revelation to me, is, during a flight, I went up to give the pilots coffee, and there was so much static because we were on the edge of a storm, and we were going around it, but there was a lot of electricity in the air. And so we were having like wild stuff happen at times, like balls of lightning would come down the aisle from the nose to the tail, and it is wild stuff. It gets struck by lightning, and you'd have these like holes in the skin of the airplane, like spot welds the whole way back. And then you have this St. Elmo's fire type thing going on, they called it. But I was sitting there, and I'm thinking, you know what? We are smarter than we think. Because I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, we're going 540 knots. And this electricity is going like this, 3 feet into the air in front of my nose, going like this, of the airplane. We're going really fast. And this lightning, this electricity is just going like this, not even affected by our speed. And I go, what am I seeing here, Lord? And I said, you know what? If you charge something, it would supersede the lower laws, which would mean drag. Now, I've already seen this. We have this technology, and it'll never be released. But if the technology of these professors, if you read this stuff, will show you that you can supersede the lower laws. So I watched how this electricity was just free to do whatever it wanted with no effect on the wind. But if you stuck your head out there, you'd be a headless horseman. But it just goes and it's just dancing out there into the air like this. And I'm thinking that electricity is, I mean, it's real. It looks like, it's real. It's physical. You can see it. And the wind doesn't bother it. I thought, well, what if we just, and that's when you're told, shut up. But if you look at your winged aircraft, like I said, the B-2 bomber, I wasn't going to go there, but I will. I got braver. My sugar level must be coming up, But I mean, I just need another sip of coffee. But you can see that airplane can't fly by itself like it does. It's very stable. And you have to ask the question, well, why is it? Why is the F-22? Why can it just sit there and pivot and pirouette in the air? When that thing is just a big piece of metal. And I mean, you got to understand that those things don't fly without airflow. So why are they still flying? Why is it that they can stall and sit there and then pirouette with no airflow and not stall? Why is it they don't depart to one side or the other? Well, I don't want to hear it. There's something else going on there. So you go to these air shows and no one asks the question, why does something with no vertical stabilizers is still stable? Well, I know the answer. I also know that you can reduce drag by electrifying the wing and causing all the positive and the negative to be separated so that they actually flow toward each other. And that's what Townsend Brown found out. Townsend Brown, how many have an ionic breeze in your house? That little thing. That's him. That's him. But all of a sudden, everything else he put out went classified. And then he became part of all these three-letter agencies, part of the CIA. Townsend Brown. And then they start discrediting him because he's now on the inside. So if you get it, how many have done a gyro? Like to pull a gyro, scope and pull it. You try to bend it. Well, what if you put one that was in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 foot in diameter and you spun that within an airplane? Would that make it stable? Stepping out of the cave, get the car ready. What if electricity superseded drag? High voltage on a wing. Just like what I saw. Higher law. Cloaking. What if the mass or the field in your ship, the field is so dense that light, photons get bent back into it. It can't escape and go to someone's eye so they see it. What if light could be bent? Well, it can. Well, what if something's there, but the light isn't reaching your eye? Well, then you're not going to see it, but it's still there. See, this is where you start clicking your heels and saying there's no place like home and you want to go back to Kansas. But I want to show you all need to think for yourself. Because what has happened is Satan has gotten in to the system and is grooming us for the end time. And he wants to use these things against us. Every one of them. There are no aliens. They have no reproductive glands. I've seen the autopsies, not the ones you see, but I've seen the reports of people that blew the whistle before they passed away. These things were made in a biolab and only made to be worker bees. And don't worry about me because we're already booked through 2032. No one's going to cancel me because I'd have to cancel myself. We already have all our meetings out to 2032. I don't care what people think anymore. The bottom line is they will mingle with a seed of men and it will not take. If these beings are so much higher than us, then why are they have to have craft? If they were actually higher than us, they would have already taken us out if they were enemies. And why don't they have reproductive glands? They don't. They're biological entities. So if you're waiting for some sort of like hybrid revelation to come from the government, it's not going to happen. It's already being done. Okay, which gets me into my next subject that you're going to have to deal with on terra firma, and that is that these things are on the ground with us. They're already among us. They're in these institutions. Now, when you encounter one of these people, their eyes will immediately go to snake eyes.
Yes.
Please don't even talk to me about it. It already happens. It happened. It happened. I was assistant pastor, and I confronted my assistant. As an assistant, I confronted him about having a girlfriend on the side. As soon as I did that, his eyes went to python slit eyes at a restaurant. It was a salad bar. Didn't even have meat in it. And I said, I quit. He said, I knew the Lord would tell you. I took my phone, and I took a picture of him, and I showed him. I said, do you know this is happening to you? You got slit eyes. You're reptilian. You're reptilian. He goes, yeah, it does that sometimes. That's what he said. Please pray for me, okay? Because this guy would go to every Benny Hinn meeting. He could stand 30 feet away from me and point at me, and everyone would fall. And I told him, I said, he goes, well, what do I do? I said, can I cast it out? So I went like this, and I just touched him. I said, in the name of Jesus, go. And it left him. Okay. No pea green soup, no chicken, buckets and spitting up and talking to the devil for 3 hours. And this is what's so interesting about it is he said, well, now what do I need to do? He wanted to submit to me. I go, well, he's a little too late for that. I'm your assistant. No longer that either. I said, I suggest you go back to your trade. You sell the church, you shut it down, you go back to your trade, and then you go to Bible school. He did none of those. But then it closed down, and then he's just, he just has a tool belt now. That man was anointed of God, but he was piggybacking off of another man. He would sit on the stage with him, get that anointing on him, come back to our church, and be full of the power of God, and just the same thing as a Benny Hinn meeting, which I don't know if it's good or not anymore, But I don't even like mentioning his name now, but that man did help me at the time. It was told by the Lord to sit with me and talk with me for an hour. So, and he did help me. Benny Hinn did, but I don't understand all this stuff. So pray for me. But what I do know is that Derek Prince was right. Derek Prince says that we have Christian seances now. So it's all familiar spirits. So you have these gifts of the Spirit, small s, working, and you got people that can know things, and they get, you don't have to ask what's in your wallet. They'll tell you. Now, I've been in these meetings. I've watched them. And these are people that you would know, and there are people that you follow that are on TV. They've been on TV with me. And they go to these people's meetings, and these people have familiar spirits. And I've watched these people. They appoint somebody, say, in your wallet, you have a $100 bill, and here's the serial number of it, and God says, give it to me. And then this is not hearsay. I've watched this happen. Taking people's money by a familiar spirit. You don't need to know your address. And you don't want somebody spouting off your social security number. It doesn't impress me. Look at you all. God doesn't have to do that to confirm a person. Oh, well, see, that goes well. See how it goes over? Okay, here's the testimonies. This is a testimony that I enjoyed. I was reading through last night. There were devils leaving people last night while you were sitting here. There were people all over the world. Devils were leaving them. People were healed supernaturally. There were people that said, I have slept for the first time in like a year. You got to sit in this room. They got the benefit of it through the media. And guess what? They didn't give a dime. And they didn't get a prayer shawl from me or anything. So I want to ask you, is the narrative you're being told about all this stuff, how do you know that it's true? Or is it just as simple as you praying in the Spirit and walking in the Spirit and saying no to the flesh? And if you have to isolate yourself from certain individuals, then you do it. Jesus did it. He isolated himself from his own disciples at times. When he rose people from the dead, he left them all out in the outside because of their unbelief. Because of their unbelief, he couldn't even take John with him at times. Sometimes he took Peter, James, and John, but he couldn't take the other 9. But sometimes he would even take anybody. It's because they hindered him. Can you go into a funeral and say they're not dead, they're just sleeping? You got to know, of course. But Jesus wants us to operate on that level, but it's not happening. Okay, the reason why it's not happening is we have not separated ourselves from the world, which is what's causing, think of it this way, is that all these laws of gravity and all this stuff is working against you if you want to fly. Okay, so you got to supersede all these laws with lift and thrust. So you do that. Okay, so according to how much thrust and how much lift you have, you supersede these laws. Okay, but you still have to have airflow over the wings. So when you see there's no airflow over the wings and the plane is still able to maneuver, then you got to ask some questions, but nobody does. Okay, it's the same way we look at people that walk in the Spirit. They don't beg for money. They just do it. They're always giving. They're always preaching the gospel, and everything comes to them. And then you got to make a decision about that observation, because it doesn't add up according to the narrative that you've been told for the last 2,000 years. But the only thing that I get out of the last 2,000 years is in Revelation 2, where it says that you're lukewarm and I'm about to vomit you out of my mouth. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. That was my last word. My last word as far as status. If you want a word, if you want to know what the prophetic word is for the church, it's time to heat up. But it's also this. The Lord said, you tell all the ministers to go back to work. Well, that went over well. Now I have no friends. The reason he's saying that is because we were never supposed to leave the marketplace. Now, Paul and Peter, they were writing scripture. So it says, let's unload the apostles so that they can have time for study of the Word of God and prayer. And then you got Stephen, who was not a fivefold, but when he would stand up and speak, they killed him because of the power. It says he had uncommon miracles coming from him. When he spoke, people grit their teeth. Paul ordered him to be killed. Okay? But he was not a fivefold minister. I would rather be a table server and be known as Stephen than an apostle. I don't want to be locked up in a cave. I want to be out there with you, beating the devil up. And how we beat the devil up is we look into each other's eyes and say, we're going to make it through this. We're going to make it through another day. I'll buy your meal today. I'm going to believe that tomorrow you can buy mine. Equality. All of us should be keeping each other so that we can be built up and supersede all these laws that are working against us. The supernatural doesn't have any limitations. It does not. It supersedes. It supersedes the natural. We haven't separated ourselves, so we're still lukewarm, which means we cannot operate in the Spirit at the level we're supposed to operate at. Okay, so you can take care of things in prayer and change history and never leave your house, never have an offering. You can eat and have God move. Do you know that if God tells you not to give in an offering, it's just as important as you giving in an offering? Did you know that? Look at it. Everybody's going to start crying. Yeah, it's like be set free. You love God anyway. You can't repay him. You're unhooking yourself from the world system by giving because you're giving that money to God and the devil can't have it. And the 10% protects the 90%, but nobody gets that. You got to be kidding me. 10%? You pay that every time you buy something in state taxes, except if you live in Texas and Florida or wherever. You don't argue with the cashier about the 10% sales tax, but you'll argue with the tithe. And even Jesus said, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and to God what's God's in the New Testament. And you realize that tithing was not part of the law. Abraham tithed before the law. So tithing doesn't even count as that. The tithing was something else. It has to do with the tree in the garden. That was the tithe. That was God's. The tithe in the garden was the tree. That was God's. It was never man's. The tithe is never yours. That goes over well. Okay. So anyway, getting back to something you can handle, the prayer, when you pray, you believe that you already receive it. Okay, because these guys have found that if you take a charge from where you're at and place it in a coordinate where you're going, it will suck you there immediately. And that's what these guys that worked on these craft told me. So when you pray, you believe you received it already, which means you go to that place and you take it and you have it. It's the certificate of ownership that is talked about in Hebrews. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. It is the evidence, the word there is title deed, of things not seen. You have the title deed for it. You don't have to see it. You can buy a house and never see it. If you got the deed for it, it's yours. When you pray, you obtain the title deed. Is there anybody understanding this? So this is what science has found that is highly technical. That's where you get remote viewing, Project Looking Glass, all departments in the intelligence field. They can go. I mean, I know these people. They can go and return and say, this is what was on Putin's desk. Lester Summerall. He got a voodoo doctor, very popular one, saved, and then traveled with him. This is not hearsay. I heard him in person tell all this. This man could go to the White House, tell what's going on there, what's being said, and he said, in 2 days you'll see it in the paper, and it would be in the paper. He said, Hollywood stars, this lady named Madonna, would come, and I would get a spirit up in me, and I would do a dance, and I would sell it to her, and all of these people would come down there. An evil spirit would come in, and I would give them the moves to launch them and the songs. Is there anybody here? Oh, and if you drink blood, man, you know, your albums will sell too. Did you know that? Right? Okay, so they access the other realm, and they all get help from the other realm, right? But you're not supposed to access that through those modes, through astrology and obtaining, you know, through a witch, contacting the other realm, right? You're not supposed to do that, right? But it is possible. You're just not allowed to do it. So you can travel. Before I was saved, I did it. I put that luggage away. I don't travel that way anymore. I started to shut down stuff when I started to sense that it was a familiar spirit. I said, oh, no. I'm going through the gate. And if the gate ain't going, then I'm not going. And what happens is that stuff, supernatural stuff happens to me a lot, but I don't talk about it anymore because everybody sensationalizes it. And then they say, well, I want that. It's like, well, I do too, but I've never asked for it. I've never asked for a visitation. I have stuff happen when I don't even believe for it. That goes over well with the faith circles, because the stuff that we have today, the stuff that's happened in Warrior Notes is not because of our faith. It's because we got out of the way. And access was granted once we stopped pushing. What time is it? Really? I got a lot of time. This is great. Maybe it's anti-gravity, huh? Okay, so the idea here is that with GPS, all these different navigation systems, all this different technology, it's based on how the realms used to be. So if you can locate where you're at, a GPS system will take you anywhere on the earth within 3 feet margin of error if you have everything you need. But what if you could negate drag? What if you, and it's already been done, and I've already seen it, what if you can negate and coach air coming at you and tell it you're coming before you get there and get out of the way to where you don't have any resistance? Because that's what these guys talk about, and all of a sudden all their work disappears. But I got it. And for some reason now it's all on Amazon. But I don't know how long it's going to be on Amazon. So we don't need to know and understand all this stuff except for the fact that I want you to label it in the days to come, that they're mingling with the seed of men. And they're going to make it look like it's a certain scenario that it's not. And you have to be ready to say, no, we know what this is. We know what it is. Do you need an image of something to know that something exists? Or can God by his Spirit image it in you? Can he show you something? Are you willing to accept what God is showing us in the days ahead through his word, through his prophets that have already written it? It's already there. Listen, you who have lost your mate. They've left you. They've left you with children. They're a narcissist. They don't have to be male to be a narcissist. Do you realize that John said they left us because they were never with us? Do you realize that in the perspective of heaven, you still can't lose? It doesn't matter what has happened to you. Every day that you go more and more in debt, it's just going to be a bigger miracle. It's leveraging. It's building up in the spirit so that God gets glory for it, and you don't. You have to hook up with what God is saying to you right now, and you have to let him locate where you're at. He knows where you're at, but the system needs to find you. You need to find yourself, and you need to be known where you're at, and then God's going to take you anywhere that he wants to take you. It's going to happen. But it's going to happen because we're doing this together. Okay, so Townsend Brown, electrogravitics research, Townsend Brown, Amazon. Let's see what else I can do to get you a visit to your home by Men in Black. Anti-gravity propulsion. The dynamics of UFOs and gravitational manipulation by Paul Potter. Read along with me for the next 1,000 years. Here we go. There's so many. Okay. In plain sight. Ross Coulthart, Australian journalist, blowing the lid off of everything. Watch everything that Jeremy Corbell puts out. Jeremy Corbell. Here's a guy, Robert Sarbacher, was with Teller, was with the head of Lockheed, formed all these things. His name is Robert Sarbacher, hyper and ultra high frequency engineering. It's way technical, but these guys, these are the names of the guys who were the kingpins that brought forth all these highly technical things that some of them you see and some of them you don't see. So this is how you speed it up. This is how you squeeze the continuum of space and time. How you squeeze this out so you get rid of time is you come to the end of yourself. You are fully determined and you place everything that's within you, you place it at your destination. You take what's inside of you and you place it fully in the hands of God. You place it to where you're going, which is the throne of God. So if you seat yourself, because you didn't seat yourself, but you were seated with Christ in heavenly realms. This is in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 6, 5 and 6, and then in the chapter 2 there, then also in Colossians chapter 3. If you go there and allow yourself to be familiar with being seated with him in the heavenly realms, if you identify with the throne and not where you're at here, what happens is that everything I just talked to you about as far as science has been explained to you. Science has been explained on what they know because there are no limitations. So there are certain spots on the earth where these things have opened up. I believe it's through the fact that things like, gold cannot be produced anymore because the earth has fallen. But if you look at the bond, lead is right below it, but you can't up it one on the bond. So you only have so many electrons going around an atom, and then you can't keep it. It's unstable. So where did gold come from? Well, it used to be here, but it can't be formed anymore because of the way the earth has fallen. Do you get it? So the field. Okay, so if you look at barium, if you look at, I don't want to say all these names because it just flags me, but if you look at 115 on the chart, you got 32 electrons. That's not something that came from the earth. So it's not stable here. But why is it stable? Why do they have that substance? Well, it didn't come from here. Okay, so if you have a meteorite or something that came from another, like a binary star system where you have two stars, you have two suns, then you would have these 32, 64 electrons. You would have all this bond. Well, it would seem supernatural if somebody had that substance on them. I mean, it'd be so powerful, that bond, that you couldn't even approach a person like that. And I believe that's what happened on the earth. I believe that this opened access points to other dimensions, and that these Anunnaki, the Sumerians, all these people that had to do with Nimrod, they were able to make these towers, make these places where you could access other realms and then go from point to point using hardly any energy at all. Okay, so they cheated. Right? Why the fascination in a position of the stars? So don't get caught up in this. Your 5-year-old can shake the heavenlies if you teach him. So one last thing, that's probably why I have this time, is I want to talk a little bit about frequencies, because that's one of the things I found too. Now, don't let the devil kick you out of all this stuff just because they say it's new age. Okay, because this was God's. God made everything. You got to understand it's all corrupted, and that the devil takes stuff and labels it for himself. But you got to remember that all these fallen beings were created by God before they were fallen. He didn't create evil, but things became evil afterwards. He can't get blamed for that. I mean, he created the cherubim that fell, the cherub, right? He created you. And you messed up. We all did. But because you do evil doesn't mean he created you evil, right? Get it? Okay, so it's the same thing with marijuana. Yeah, God created it. So I'm fine with you smoking marijuana as long as you just roll poison ivy first and smoke it. Poison sumac and... Yeah. Hey, it was a poison ivy, man. That's a good grade right here, man. See what I mean? That's like blaming God. I got hooked on Tester's glue because I wanted to build models. Well, the glue's supposed to go on the model, not in your nose. See what we do? So eggs are bad, now they're good, you know. Meat was bad, now it's not. Now it's going to be again, you know. So I want to talk to you about frequency. And that is that access points can be opened through changing the frequency, because what it does is it creates the vibration, and the level of vibration causes things to either come in synchronization with each other, harmony, or they start fighting each other. So this was done by Tesla, and this is when they put him in jail. Is he had created a machine? I could tell you the amount of hertz that it was, but then that's classified. But he aimed it at a side of a mountain, and it deteriorated the mountain. It just broke apart. So he started, like, if you read about him, if you can find his stuff, he started messing with all the different frequencies. And that's when he started to get things to levitate. Because the frequency of whatever it was that was keeping us at 32 feet per second was negated at certain frequencies by a higher law, which had negated gravity. And not only that, listen to this. The Naval Observatory has those atomic clocks, right? And it's based on a cycle of, I think it's cesium or whatever it is, the atom cycle of that. So it's like supposed to be really accurate, right? You know, and they got one in Colorado Springs, I think, or somewhere else. And they measure all the time. They reset everything according to that, because that's a cycle of an atom's electrons or whatever. What was so funny was they took it up to 30,000 feet and it sped up because of the gravitational pull was affecting the cycle of the atom. But without certain things, like as you get higher up, it wasn't working against that, and that the clock sped up. Same thing with light, is that the same thing with light. They found out it was slowing down, and that they could bend light, and they could actually make it so that photons never reach your eye. So it doesn't register an image. And you can find this with your cameras. You know, you can put it even at the stealth technology, and it won't focus on the airplane, because it sends a light beam out, and then it waits for a return, and then it images that. So that's what your eye does. So you can make it so that light bends, and then an object can appear invisible, but it's still there. But the photons are being bent back into itself. And that's what you have with a black hole. It's not a hole. It's a sun that's so massive, it's so dense that the photons, the light bends right back in. It never gets to you, never gets to any optics. Okay, so with frequency, the same thing can happen. So if you play a sequence of notes in a certain order, at a certain frequency, it does something to the human spirit and to the human soul. It begins to unlock. So Satan knew this. So he developed music that could grab your heart, and then he gorged you with bad theology and bad words. And what he did was he was able to attach you to an experience where you heard that song that never leaves you, and you weren't supposed to be with that person. It's soul manipulation based on frequencies and music that attach you. So now when you hear that song, you go right back to that spot. Just like that. Come on now. Okay, so what if God would give musicians different sequences of notes and words to match it that would start unlocking the heavenly realms and people's hearts and their souls? And not only that, get the whole room on the same page, because that's what happens. Okay, this is God's way. But you're being manipulated by the media with all kinds of frequencies. It might be 5G, it might be 6G, but it's being broadcast. And they're wanting to make you a receiver by filling your body with metal. I'm not talking about your fake knee. I'm talking, or your cavities. I'm talking about the residual that they're finding, and they don't know where all this metal's coming from. It's in our bodies, heavy metals. But we're becoming a receiver of frequencies. What happens when you put foil into a microwave? Well, what happens if that same frequency is aimed at you and you have metal residual in your body? Not talking about your teeth. I'm talking about all these mystery metals that are listed in ingredients like your macaroni and cheese. Well, at what point do you become toxic enough to where, what if those frequent, because I know they are, because I've seen the government projects, they can broadcast a message and a human being can start, they've done the experiments. It's too late, so don't write me. They've done this, they broadcast it. I can name you the projects and the locations. And now it's in every neighborhood. And they are broadcasting, but what they're doing is they're asking people, have you had any thoughts about this, this, and this? They've already had the list of what they've been broadcasting, and people are subconsciously picking it up. To the point where McDonald's is actually doing this. They're broadcasting commercials. And that's why you want to go and get a Big Mac. Too late, So if you don't believe this, just give it a couple years. And your car is going to want to turn into McDonald's every time it goes by. Why? Take a hint from your pet. Your pet won't even eat a Big Mac. So, okay. All right. So frequencies is a way of communication. It's wireless. But if you can get a receptor, something to receive it, then it can manifest. This technology already exists, whether you believe it or not. And you're going to have to apologize to me in heaven if you don't believe. Which is okay. We'll still, you can still come to my mansion room. It's a room in our Father's house. I mean, you're going to be disappointed, but anyway, pull the plug on these people. Don't support them anymore. Oh, I can't believe it. Okay. All right. Frequencies. So you can yield to the Spirit, bring forth a song, music, that starts to unlock people's hearts. So that's why we do what we do. We don't practice the songs. I just get a word. Sometimes I don't say anything. But we pick a key, we pick a progression, and sometimes a statement from the Lord. Sometimes they pick it up without me saying anything, which is really a good sign. But at the middle of it, I'll say, we're shifting. You'll see me turn to the drum and say, okay, pick it up. Turn to the bass player and say, follow him. And then I'll try to get everybody else's attention and say, listen, the shift is happening now. And we're going to go into this. We're going to go into this because this is the next phase of what the Spirit is doing in the congregation. Now, most congregations, they wouldn't even get to that first shift. However, because of the maturity of you, we can start to go into these things, and it would take instead of a weekend, it just takes one 30-minute session as we transfer into it. So it doesn't have to be audible words. And I know this because I picked up somebody when I was a limousine driver back when I was in college. The Lord had told me to pick up a guy who was hitchhiking, and you're not supposed to do that, but I said, hop in. And as soon as he hopped in, he wanted to get out because he was full of devils. He was full of devils. And he started getting uncomfortable. And so, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Got a hot one. Because the guy's starting to get stiff and, I'll get you, my pretty, and all that, and I'm like, man, why do I not listen to my company? Anyway, I started praying in tongues. So just so you know, I've been praying in tongues since I started this morning. I'm praying. I can hear myself loud praying in tongues right now, but I'm talking to you, but I can pray in tongues. I also have 30 or 40 other things that I'm thinking about and study. I'm studying things. I'm thinking about things. I'm rehearsing things. This is what everyone is supposed to be able to do. I do 40 different things at one time. I'm studying for my airplane test. I've been thinking about all that information, thinking about the stuff I want to say that I can't say, asking the Lord. I'm praying in the Spirit. I have been for the last 2 hours. Okay, when I started to do that, I'm talking to him, but I'm praying in tongues, warfare tongues, just like I'm doing now. You just hear me going after the devil. I have been for 2 hours. He said, stop that. I go, what? He goes, that thing you're doing. Stop it. I go, what? Tell me. He says that thing you're doing within yourself. You're praying. He says, we don't like that. That's what he said. We don't like that. I go, really? Well, how about this? I start praying out loud. And he says, we've been sent to destroy America, and I'm like, well, good luck with that. At the time I thought, that's not going to happen, but, now it is. But and I said, out you go. Amen. So I stopped him, put him out. The demons, they probably came back, but, the bottom line is that the head church for the Assemblies of God, Central Assembly, my first couple of weeks there at the Assemblies of God Church, I came in for a Sunday night service. All the head honchos are there, all the leadership, all the professors that are in my college. And I'm sitting, it's this huge place, 3,300 people. I sat, a third of the way up on the aisle with my roommate, brand new Christian. And there was a guest speaker that night. It was a lady, a missionary. So she was up there and she was speaking, and all of a sudden I heard yelling in the back, and I saw this guy like a zombie walk by me down the aisle toward her in the front. And I'm waiting for all the ushers to stop him, and he's possessed. He's just fully chocked with devils, and she doesn't know what to do, and the ushers don't know what to do. I guess they've never seen anything like this. I thought they were spirit-filled, So I stood up. I've been saved a couple weeks. And I said, how dare you come against the armies of the living God? And I started quoting, what David did as he went to the giants, because that's the only scripture I knew. And I just went at him. I just went up there. I started rebuking him. He laid back and levitated in front of everybody. The only thing that was touching him was his heels on the floor. So he had a big arch. He was up in the air. His head was almost touching the ground. His heels were touching the ground, but his head was off the ground by a foot. So how do you do that? And he's prophesying in the name of Satan about how he's come to expose hypocrisy in this church. I go, well, that's good. Keep that up. But then he was going to talk about to destroy America, and that we've been sent to do all these things, and we're coming against the headquarters, and everything. And I just kept rebuking him in the name of Jesus, and it just kept getting weaker and weaker, and he finally fell. And then he lost all his power to do anything, and he couldn't talk anymore. And so the ushers came and took me away. They did. They took me away. They said, "Shut up! Don't yell at him. He's just hungry." So they gave him a bag of groceries, and they sent him away. And I never went back there. I have so many stories where I was praying in the Spirit, and it disturbed that whatever that was going on in the Spirit was sending out this discomforting to these evil spirits. So then I realized that all of us should be walking in this, whatever that is. We know it's the Spirit, right? But we also know that they feel uncomfortable with certain frequencies. They feel uncomfortable with certain words, certain melodies. They're uncomfortable. It becomes where they're uncomfortable with certain people. Okay, so that when you walk into a situation that has never had anyone be able to do anything with it, then you walk in and automatically they know who you are. They start spouting off and they have to go. They know, they let you know that they're going to have to go if you tell them to. And all the people that were there that are living with this person in this situation in a church or whatever, they're like looking at you. It's like, so then you get a ministry. So now you have a deliverance ministry. It's like, no, we all have a deliverance ministry. We just need to walk in it. Okay, so then what happens is somebody almost dies and they get healed. And so they have a healing ministry now, which is like most of the people that you know, the generals, they all got healed of a disease where it almost killed them, right? You know, Oral Roberts, Kenneth Hagin, all those guys, T.L. Osborne, all of them were on the deathbed, right? Okay, so they had a revelation of healing, which caused them to operate in a certain area of God in authority, just because they were pushed into it. And all of a sudden, God gives you a word, and you're supposed to take a certain supplement, and it just turns everything around, and it's on Amazon without a prescription, and it's not a multi-level. And you take that, and it changes you. But you're praying, you're doing everything right, you know, and yet you can't seem to find healing. Okay, and then God gives you a word. This has happened so many times with me and my wife. And we go and we just order it. We can't even spell it. We have to look it up online, and then Amazon comes up. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got a word. We don't even know what this is. We can't spell it. We take it, and it totally changes us. I mean, totally. Like, thanks, doc, but we're great. Well, can you get a blood test? Yes, I'll do a blood test. It's gone. We don't know how. I go, was that just as much God? It was something my body needed, right? Okay, so it's the same thing within a service. If you're praying in the Spirit and we're all praying together, and then we build each other up by words of knowledge, words of wisdom, tongues, interpretation, all of us, then what happens is there's a provision that comes from someone else into you, and then you into someone else. But see, some of us have beat the devil in certain areas, like finances. So when you walk into a situation, the devil's just put a white flag up. So you can sit and talk with somebody. I've done this. I've had the Lord just say, just give them $20. Well, I said, well, they need 2,000. He said, give them 20. And bam, it just flips over Alexander Hamilton. Not even Benjamin Franklin, you know, a Benny, you know, or anything. It was a point of contact. This guy's targeted. That's why I keep touching him, because he's being targeted. Every time I touch somebody, something from the other realm goes into them. It's not because I'm, you know, was on Sid Roth or went to heaven or anything. It's just that where we're all walking, we need each other. So sometimes if you touch somebody, the devils are like, I'm done. Don't, you know, like the devils are done. And you haven't done a thing except touch somebody. Here, grab me, you say, grab my hand. I don't know what I'm going to do. Just grab my hand. And they like, look at you. They fall. And I'm like, I didn't feel nothing. Then you find out that person's never the same again. There was no word spoken. I have no idea what happened. All I know is that something that was in me needed to be in them. That's the way the body works. Okay, it's not that I'm a hero. You're not, you don't have a ministry of deliverance. Jesus said these signs are going to follow you. But you're preaching the word, the good news, and then these things manifest. God is manifesting those things. You're doing the preaching. You're not responsible for the signs. You're not. But I'm telling you, if we would yield to worship, if we would yield to prayer, we would bring forth the words and the music and things from the other realm, things will start to be negated. And it'll get to where when you go somewhere, when you get there, everything folds in submission to the authority of Christ. Period. That happened last night in this room. I thank you for your maturity because it only took a service. By the end of the service, it was exactly where it needed to be, and I could leave. You had all allowed the Spirit to bring you into unity, right? Okay. All right, so how does this resolve the family problems? How does this resolve your financial problems, your physical problems, everything that's represented here in this room? What has to happen is you have to relinquish any more work. You're going to have to not work. You're going to have to receive everything by grace right now. You're going to have to realize that and I don't want you to be in charge anymore. Nobody wants you to be in charge anymore. Please, put the autopilot on. Please let God have your life completely. Somebody needs to tell you, please don't touch anything. Let God have his way. Let God take over. Let God have his way now. Now, the preaching of the word disables all the powers so that even people in leadership are disabled if they have these entities. Listen, your worst enemy is the one who is right beside you. Judas. Jesus trusted him with the money. How many of you have been betrayed? Okay, well, you got to let go of that. It happened to Jesus. He couldn't stop it. So last time I checked, you're not anywhere close to him. So it probably will happen to you. It happened to him. It's going to happen to you. He was led into the desert by the Spirit to be tempted of the devil. It says he was led by the Spirit into the devil. So are you any better? Okay, so after he was tempted, angels came to minister to him. So Jesus needed ministry of angels after he was tempted of the devil. So what about you? What about you? Do you need ministry of angels? Are you any better than Jesus? Jesus needed to be ministered to by angels after he was tempted by the devil. So don't let anybody rob you of these things. I mean, right now, in this room, there are angels singing. Right now. They're not taking any breath. They're singing notes in harmony at a very high level right now. And if it continues for the next couple of minutes, you'll start to feel lighter, and then you're going to lose your headache. You're going to lose symptoms in your body. I'm talking right now. I can hear them. And this doesn't happen very often, but it's happening right now. It doesn't ever happen in a morning service, certainly not with coffee, but it's happening right now. Why? Is because you have ears to hear, and the Lord has ordained this long before you were born, this day, that the angels would come in here and start singing. What they're doing is they're opening up the heavens to where the demonic cannot block anymore. You're going to start to receive information, wisdom from heaven. As you're sitting here right now, you were all meant to be here. But God wants to relay to you that your situation is in his hands now, and that as the ministers of the Lord, these angels have come. They've come at the command of the Lord, and they are going to take care of things. And so you're going to say this with me. Angels, go forth and accomplish the will of God in my life.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Okay. Time check. I don't know why my watch says something from another planet. It's so weird. What if that angel, that no-name angel that killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers with a sword, what if that angel doesn't have a name, but what if that angel would show up and start walking across America? Like what if God's just had it? Things like this are slated to happen in the Bible and Revelation. What I'm asking all of you is just to, yes, you feel the devil, you see the devil, you've maybe voted for the devil, I don't know. But you support people that are not speaking the gospel. You're responsible for that money. Okay, but what if your prayers and our continued gathering together in agreement, what if one day an angel just showed up, like what's happening here, and just says, you know what, enough's enough. It's going to be different now, and I'm going to be here to work with you. Now, I've had this happen. Kathy and I have had this happen in our house. Now, with the angel that's here, I don't know about you all, but my angel right now that is with me, I can't doubt. I can't fear. I can't think of one wrong thing. I can't think of anything bad. I can't doubt or fear right now. It's just totally supernatural. Anything is possible if I'll believe right now. Mark 9:23. It's the atmosphere of heaven. What has happened? The other realm has invaded our physical space. And it's affecting our physical bodies and our psychological part of us. Now, I've had this happen where I've met people. It says, you were in this country and you preached to us. You were on this street and you preached to us. And it was 2 years ago. Well, 2 years ago, when I was praying, I had a vision and I felt wind as though I was flying. And I saw that street and I saw these people. But I just thought it was just a vision. They said, no, you were here, and this is what you were wearing, and this is what you said to us. And we've been waiting for you to come to our country. I've been taken to the future and watched the future play out, then brought back to my room and said, get ready, because you're going to go do this. And I'm like, well, it's already happened. He goes, exactly, now go. I had to walk to where I was translated. I had to walk there physically. And it played out again. I saw the same thing, the same person with the same clothes approach me, say the same things. I said the same things that I saw in the vision. The guy got saved. And then I was not translated back to my room. I had to walk back to my room. I was taken to the future, watched it play out, and then had to go and manifest it. When you have, when you pray, you have the Bible open and you pray the Word of God. But if God starts to show you flashes of things, you need to journal them. I remember I was worried at Southwest Airlines. I still got 3 minutes, right? Till 11:30, right? Huh? Oh, okay, sorry. I told Kathy, I said, I don't know what's going to happen with Southwest Airlines, but, I feel like there's going to come a time where I'm going to retire. And then we had both worked so much, and I just taught Sunday school at my church. I didn't have a ministry or anything. I never got asked to speak at my church, but I had been to heaven and everything. And I told Kathy, I said, I just don't know how I'm going to have enough for retirement, because I don't want to have to depend upon people's offerings or anything. If we're going to do something, I want it to be where we'll just do it no matter what. So I said that, I don't know how this is going to happen. And I don't want to say too much, but I saw in a flash 2001 and 2008. I saw both market crashes, and I knew I was going to sell out and then buy back on those 2 years. And so I did that, and I quadrupled as a flight attendant. But before all that happened, in a vision, I saw a certain amount of money in my retirement when I retired. And I told Kathy that number, which was a lot of money, much more than what I had. I'm only telling you this because I'm not this good. I'm just telling you that Jesus said that the Spirit that's coming, he will show you things to come. He will lead you into all truth, but he'll show you things to come. And I'm telling you, that number that I told her is how much I transferred over on the day I retired. But it's totally impossible, even to hit it, let alone that amount. What I'm trying to tell you is it was impossible, but it happened anyway. But it didn't happen because I did anything except be obedient. I'm telling you this because that's what the Lord is saying right now. He wants to do it supernaturally. There's not going to be an offering. Honey, do you have any money? Do you have any money? Any 20s? I want to give out some money. Who wants some lunch money for? Yes. Oh my. Kathy, do you how much money? Okay, yeah, just help them hand it out. All right, who has kids that need lunch? Have kids? Lunch. Oh, okay, go ahead, pass it out. One each. You have any more? You have any more? Give it to, I want Dennison to feel the power. So you're noticing that the ushers are coming by. You notice that they're not taking any money from you. This is called a reverse offering. Amen? Okay. Man, I'm drunk. Okay. All right. Well, this is the other thing is that angels, I don't talk about this stuff, and I'm telling you now, it's because there's something going on with angels this weekend here, obviously. But the angels have come to me and they said, "Oh, because we're here, you are in the center of God's will." And I go, "Wait a minute. I want God's will." They said, "You're in God's will right now because we were sent to you." I go, "Yeah, but like I need like this job, and I need, no, it doesn't work that way. We were sent to you. You are in the center of God's will right now." And that's the mentality that you have to start to get as a Christian, is that you're not bound by the schedule, by your mortgage payment, by your chemo, by your crazy friends that come over, or your relatives. You're not bound by any of that stuff. The angel of the Lord is with you. The Spirit of God is with you. The Word of God is with you. You're in the center of God's will because of that. And from there, you walk. You move about. You live and you move and you have your being in Him. Now look what's happening in here. You see, the thing that was is Jesus told me, "You are the next move of God, Kevin, because I'm moving in you." He said, "You tell the people they are the next move of God. Don't wait for it. You are the next move of God." He said, "You are a move of God because the Spirit of God is within you. And wherever you go, if you're with me and I'm with you, guess what? You can have what you want." It says, "Ask what you will." If you're in me and I'm in you, you can ask whatever you desire. It says, "Will, and it shall be done for you." Why? So that my Father would be glorified, right? And your joy would be full. See, what's with us is greater than what's against you. Man, if you're on fire right now, your wood's wet. I told my staff, I let them know this was going to happen, right? What's happening right now in this room was going to happen. The Lord appeared to me a couple of weeks ago. He said, "You're stepping aside, you and your wife." He said, "You're done." He said, "Your staff's going to take it to the next 7 years." He said, "You tell your staff They either get half of you or none of you, because you're not going to last more than 2 more years. Either back off or your body will not be able to keep up with you. And the Lord said, if you'll do this, you'll see it in Norfolk. See, it's not about us. It's about the people you're sent to. It's about the people that you're assigned to. Let it go, people. Let those entities go. They haven't paid rent anyway. Let them go, man. You're delivered. You're set free. You're healed. God is bringing the restitution. Payback's going to be dear. Where is that accusing voice? Even the Lord himself, he said, is there anybody greater than me? He says, I think not. He says, I've searched the earth and have found no one. Who is greater than God himself? Your God. So the sword has been drawn in your behalf and put at the throat of your enemy. Right now. Deliverance has come to your house. Waves of glory in this place. Mighty is our God. Mighty is our King. A great and mighty warrior. Burn, burn, burn with the fire of God. You flames of fire, you ministers of the Lord, burn with a holy fire, cleansing fire. Be delivered, be healed, be restored. Hey. Okay. Just to show you, the Lord had told me to do this. I understand. I'm ministering to you all. I'm having to do some things openly to show you. Dennison here, him and his family moved. He retired from the police department, and they had a miracle, $40,000 for a down payment for a new house. So they transferred that so that they can put it down for the house, and it went to a corrupt bank in Nigeria. And I went after the devil, and the Lord said, it's coming back. But he said, you and Kathy are going to pay the fee that it's going to take for the authorities to go grab that, which was $2,000. Now, I understand that the Lord has worked in miraculous ways with them in other ways, but I still want to give him that $2,000. And I just talked to Kathy, who is also called Cashy. And so we're going to give you the $2,000 as a symbol that it's not going to cost him anything for what the devil was doing. It's not going to cost him anything. In fact, I think he's ahead now. So Kathy's going to do that. I'm doing that because the Lord had said this last week. He said, you're going to do this. And I just checked in with my secretary and the vice president, and she said it's okay. Okay, now I'm doing that out of our own money because I want the devil to know that he's going to have to think twice about touching my people. Right? Do you get it? I'm transferring the Spirit of God in this area to you. So what you do is you say, you touch my children, devil, you're going to pay. And you make them pay. Now, it doesn't have to be money. You could just go out and give somebody a meal or a hot dog, you know. You could just give them a book. You could pat them on the back and pray for them. You could go out and just witness to somebody, steal somebody from the devil, make heaven their home, and the devil will back off your children. Do you remember the Globetrotters? Well, Meadowlark Lemon was a friend. He was in our church. And this is what he did. He said every time the devil would touch anything in his life, he had a box of tracts. And he would go right to Home Depot parking lot and he'd start handing out tracts. And he'd tell the devil, you touch my water heater again, you touch my car again, you touch my kids again, you touch my finance again. He said, and you're going to pay. So he had that box right there on his dashboard of his car. And if he was at Home Depot, I knew what was going on. Amen? Well, the one thing good about the Spirit of God is that He's going to continue. So we're gonna start. I got to go get changed. We're going to do the children's program. Just stay in the Spirit. Stay with me for about 20 minutes. I'm going to minister to your children. We're going to break them away into different activities, and then we're going to meet back here at 2. So if you could stay for 20 minutes, we'll give you a little break now. I got to go get changed. I got my pilots here. We're going to do some things with the kids, and then you can leave. If you have children involved with the activities, there's 50 or 60 kids. Could you stay with them, of course? But everyone else will be released until 2 o'clock, and we'll start the session. Today, you're going to get a book. We're going to have healing school, and we're going to have deliverance school this afternoon. Okay? All right, so take a little break, and then to stay in the Spirit. The Lord is doing things. Let everyone who's being ministered to in here, just let them continue to be ministered to.